Hello, everybody. This is Chris Baker, the host of the podcast Tell Me Your Story. Thank you for watching or listening. And today's special guest today is Louis Ortiz. And he's going to tell his story from the very beginning all the way to the end. Let's go. Let's jump into this. We're going to start from like how I always do. How was your childhood? How does it begin? Where does life take place for you?
Oh, wow. Uh, well, as far back as I can remember, I guess. Uh, I mean, born in Orlando, Florida, as a young kid. We moved up here to Ohio, and actually, I probably was around maybe 4, maybe 5 when we moved up here. Been here ever since. I mean, not really a whole lot, that I can recall as like as far as my childhood and everything like that. I mean, not sure, bud.
Growing up in Orlando, man, that's a big difference from out here. You were in,
Right.
was it downtown Orlando or what part?
Well, see that I can't even remember, to be honest with
It's
you.
too
I
far
mean, I
away.
was so young that we moved up here, like I said, when I was a young age. So, I mean, I don't remember a whole lot of Florida. I have been back and visited a couple times since, but I mean, would love to actually go back and be there for good. But
As we all, as we all, especially these last couple of days here in Ohio. Anybody that's watching
right,
listening right now, it's been kind of like tease weather.
horrible.
It's been
Yeah,
there's days where it's like it feels like Florida weather around this time of year, spring break weather, where it's like 70 degrees and you're able to go out and actually enjoy yourself. And then the very next
right.
day it's snowing.
Exactly. Welcome to Ohio.
The very next day it's snowing. That's typical Ohio weather around here. You don't know which kind of layers to wear. You might come out starting off wearing shorts, and then that later on that day you're wearing your winter jacket.
That's it. You got that right.
All right. Once you moved to Ohio, can you remember that part? Just growing up here.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, typical, childhood. I guess. I mean, I'm the youngest of 4 boys, as you know. You know, so like as far as like growing up, riding bikes over in the parking lot. Actually, I don't know. You might not remember, but I I remember one specific time because I grew up on Huron Ave, which, as you know, a lot of Cedar Point traffic goes through there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember there was this one day I had my oldest brother's bike and I was trying to show off on it, right? And I did the little bunny hop thing, and I remember hitting the curb and doing like 3 front flips and landing flat on my face and knocking every single one of my teeth out of my mouth.
Oh.
It was horrible, man. My mom knows about it, she'll tell you all about that.
I think
But yeah, it was pretty bad.
I would say my closest experience to that, not knocking my teeth out, but being on the back of the pegs while somebody's riding the bike and one of the pegs being
Right,
loose, and then sliding down and having my leg scrape on the street top. The whole back of my cabinet
right.
was all scraped up. So,
Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
was, and then at the time you're being around your boys and stuff, you're not trying to cry or anything, but you're in like a hell of a lot of
Right,
pain. You're like, oh, it's burning.
right.
I just remember getting in
I
the
know one
bathtub, man, and it was just, whew, I couldn't do
horrific
it.
pain, huh?
Yeah, I don't wish that on
I know when
anyone.
me neither. I know when I did that, I remember doing the flips, and as soon as I hit concrete, all I seen was nothing but stars completely. It was horrible.
I bet losing all your teeth at a young age, like, ooh,
Right.
all your baby
It
teeth.
was horrible. Yeah. Yeah, it was bad, buddy. But I mean, I guess trying to make sure I do this right here, with this whole tell your story. So, like, is there any questions you have for me or
Yeah, you said you have 4 brothers. Um,
right? Well, yeah, I'm the youngest of 4, yep.
how was that? growing up with four, well, three brothers, I should say.
I ain't gonna lie to you, it was horrible. They always picking on me, beating up on me.
That way, anybody that's wondering, asking right now, like, how the hell four boys in one house?
Right. Yeah, I mean, of course, I tried to always be the little tag along with them growing up, and they would always, pick on me and all that good stuff, and I'm just like, come on, guys.
And then
But
on top of it all, you're the baby.
right,
You're the
yeah, I'm the
baby of the
baby.
group.
Right. So it was, I mean, for the most part, childhood was okay. I mean, played football with them and stuff like that, but I mean, there was some bad times too, of course. So, you know,
You want to talk about that? Are you comfortable
sure,
talking about that?
sure, I mean, at a young age, I'll jump into that, I guess. I ain't trying to bounce all over the place here, but roughly around that age, like 4 or 5 or whatever, we were actually all separated from each other. We all, my parents, they were going through a rough time, and we were pulled and put into foster care for almost a couple years. And only two of my brothers got to stay together through that situation. Me and my oldest brother, we were all separated from each other. So that was a little rough.
And how, like, just kind of like go into detail for the listener, watcher right now, like, so they can have a better understanding of what it was like
Sure.
kind of being just separated from the group and just put into foster care, being placed with a different family.
I mean, My it wasn't as bad because I mean obviously a family member was able to get me for the time that I was in foster care. Excuse me. Um so it wasn't really too bad. I was blessed to be with a family member and somebody who I knew instead of somebody that I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was with them for almost I think it was almost 2 years before my dad actually got his stuff together and was able to get us back. So, and from what I remember, or for what I've been told as well, we were extremely close to being adopted off for good. That's how close it was.
Wow. And just think about like how big of a blessing that is, though, to be,
Oh,
not placed with somebody you didn't know, but a family member. You get
right,
you guys all there.
right. But I mean, it wasn't bad. Like I said, I was with an aunt, so they I didn't go into it with somebody I didn't know, obviously. I think it would have been a lot, a little bit worse off if it would have been with somebody who I had no idea who they were.
Yeah. Just I could imagine the horror stories. Just it could go either way. Both. I've heard enough
Right.
stories, both sides, for people being in foster care, going to a good home, going to a bad home, and you lucked out.
Exactly.
You lucked out, man.
Definitely.
How was it
Uh,
once you guys went back? Once you guys were all back together, was it the same
uh,
or was it a little different going back?
I mean, if I had to say, it was definitely a lot better, you know, than what we had got taken away from. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, with that happening, and then finally when we all did get back together, it brought us stronger together, I would say.
All right, cool.
So,
All right, next question. Or unless you want to keep going with that, you got anything else you want to cover?
go ahead.
All right,
Uh, Not that I could think of.
all right. How was your school experience?
Ooh, school. Uh, I mean, obviously I didn't graduate. I wish I would have, but I didn't. Uh, Coming up I went to Margaretta, by the way, which is a real small school. Uh, Basically, if you ain't got the last name or if you're not, extremely popular, you're a nobody. So, coming up through that school system, I had a lot of lot of issues that I had to deal with, and gotten quite a few, more than I can count, fights over, just retarded stuff. Now that I look back at it, but it got to the point to where I just completely stopped going because of all that. So yeah,
I don't
yeah,
blame you. I don't blame you.
it was rough going to that school. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a bad school. It's just, like I said, you got to have either the last. It's one of those types of schools where you got to have the last name, or you got to be the super jock, and just be noticed around there, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like similar to how it was for me in school, where
Right,
I was at Sandusky High, and I went from like knowing everybody knew who I was, playing football and stuff. Everybody knew who I was, especially because of my sisters as well. But then I
right,
went to St. Mary's to try that out. I went there for my sophomore, junior year, and it was, like you said, it was the complete opposite. Nobody
yeah.
knew who
It's
I
like night and
was,
day.
nobody knew my name. And at the time, I was kind of big headed too because I was coming off my freshman year, and everybody
Right.
knew who I was. I was like, I felt like the king of the school. So going to somewhere where I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good. And then when they called my name and everything, and they were saying like, "Oh, Chris Baker, the new student here," and I stood up, I was like, "Yeah," I was all pumped up. And then that's when I realized that's when reality hit me and said, "Oh, nobody knows who the hell you are, man.
Right,
Nobody knows you.
right,
Sit down, boy."
right. Yeah.
But it really helped me in the long run. It helped me become the person who I am because I believe if I didn't make that transfer and I didn't go to St. Mary's, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. It helped me
Right,
develop my character, shape it a little bit better. Helped me get out of my own way, I should say. Because, like I said,
right,
freshman year I had a big old head. So when I went
right,
back my senior year, back to Sandusky to graduate, I seen the world differently, and I was more connected to God. I, developed my relationship with Him, and He just opened my eyes, man, to a whole different world and what was real, what was fake around me.
right. It's definitely a blessing.
Yeah, very blessed because it's been useful throughout the years.
Right, right. And to go back to my school experience, I mean, have I tried? I've done the 22 and up whole thing that they got going on here in town. Uh, didn't really get too far into that. They say it's never too late, and I still would love to try to get my diploma or GED. That way I can further, myself. So it's definitely a goal of mine that I would like to achieve.
Knock them out, man. Set your goals, knock them out. That's all you got to do.
Right. Especially now that, I got a 2-year-old daughter to think about as well. So
Definitely, something to have. I mean, that comes down to you, though, what you want to do. And
right,
I can see from your point of view that you definitely want to see you have your daughter say, "Yeah, my dad graduated high school." You don't want that to be like
right,
a later experience for her. Like, yeah, your dad didn't finish school. Like, what? Like,
right. Yeah, and then she'll be like, well, he didn't finish, so I don't have to finish type
yeah,
deal, I guess.
you don't want to give her that motive to feel like, "Yeah,
Right.
he didn't do it. I don't have to do it."
Exactly.
You got to set the example.
Yeah. Lead by example.
So after high
Uh,
school, what was it like, man?
oh, well, that's where it gets real interesting. Uh, after high school, spent a lot of my days, hanging out with the guys, partying, blah, blah, blah. That was basically all I really ever did for a long time. I was on a path of destruction, buddy. Um, Big time. Up until the point to where I became incarcerated. And I think that was a big eye opener for me. Definitely made me, I mean, I'm not proud that I was incarcerated, but on the other hand, I am glad that I was, because it made me a better person that I am today.
Can what did you get in trouble for? Are you allowed to? You want to talk about it?
What? No, not, I don't mind at all. It's, it's not really a big thing. I mean, a lot of, people don't really know the whole story. So I guess what's the better way to get it out than tell me on your story, huh? Basically I was with a girl. Um, she had mistreated her child, or well, she was mistreating her child. And I used to get on her case about it. You shouldn't do that. But of course, I'm not the dad. So who am I? You know what I mean? I'm a nobody. So the child ended up actually getting hurt in the process due to her. Well, during that whole altercation, that when that happened, she was crying to me, about not wanting to lose her kid, blah blah blah. I had a heart of gold, and I said I did it. So that's why I became incarcerated.
Wait, you did what? What happened?
I said that I had hurt her child, which I never did, but being so she didn't lose her child, I took the fall for her, is what I did.
How did that actually come into play, though? How did they, did she, was there reports of like she had bruises on her or something?
Well, basically, she was with me one day, and I noticed she wasn't feeling all the greatest. She wasn't being her playful self. You know what I mean? So I took her to the hospital. Naturally, that's what somebody would do, right?
Yep.
Well, when I took her, they had found evidence that she had been being hurt.
Oh,
Said something about shaken baby syndrome.
and how
Case
old was how old is the child? How old was she?
just a little older than what my baby is now, 2 years old, like two and a half, maybe. So when that all came about, I called her from the hospital because she was actually at work. She ended up coming up to the hospital, and that's when I met her in the parking garage and explained to her what was going on and everything. And that's when she was, pretty much crying to me about not wanting to lose her kid and everything. And that's when I told her, do what you got to do, blame it on me.
And
So,
then
needless to say,
how did that all play out, though?
uh, not well in my part.
Kind of,
I mean,
as you tell your story, kind of describe just like going the whole court deal and just kind of get more into depth with that. Explain just how it all played out.
well, I mean, it was kind of, horrific. Of course, the papers, made me look like a horrific monster. You know what I mean? I mean, that's their job. I mean, it's what they do. Uh, I had my family members basically looking down on me because, they thought, because they didn't know no different. They thought that I had done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of my family, just looking, down like I was some piece of crap. And, it really hurt because it's like I wanted to explain to them the whole story, but at that time I couldn't, you know? So, and it honestly, it took until for me to actually sit down with my own mom, excuse me, and explain to her what had really transpired. It took me a long time. Like I did all my prison time, uh, and was home for quite some time before I actually sat down and talked to her about it.
And just kind of what was it like? Just because everybody seems to like prison talk. Talk about
Right.
just how it was just your first day to your last.
All right. Well, I mean, here I am, a young guy walking in, baby faced and stuff. The first thing I'm thinking is it's like the movies. Who's gonna beat me down? Who's gonna try to rape me? Type deal. Uh, it's nothing like that. I mean, yeah. I mean, is it? Is there violence in there? Of course, it's prison. You know what I mean? But it's not like the movies try to put it out there to be because uh when I was in there, in the cell blocks and stuff, they had like Wii systems and stuff, and I'm like, what? This is prison? You know? Like you could actually play Wii in prison? Are you serious? You don't think that it would be like that, but it's not really all. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's go for it. I don't encourage nobody to go there because it sucks, but it's to go back. It's not like I said. It's not like the movies and all that. But on my first day, I walked in there head down to the ground. I didn't know what to expect,
It wasn't like
and
it wasn't played
it
out.
actually
It wasn't played out like where you walk in and you're with a bunch of other inmates. You're all in your cuffs, and all the people are watching you as you walk
right.
in. They're shouting and cheering like, "Yeah, fresh meat, fresh meat."
I mean, right, right. I mean, it was a little bit like that. I mean, because like when I came into the actual housing unit that they put you in, or that they put me in, you had people standing on the range and stuff, and they're all hollering like, "Hey, hey, pick your head up, blah blah blah," But I mean, they're just trying to test your waters, I guess, see where you stand, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
And what better way to describe it is like when you start a new job. That's exactly the same feeling. Everybody's gonna get a taste of you, man. They want to see you what
Right,
you're about.
right.
Can they push you around?
Yeah,
What are
they
you
want to
about?
see who you. Right, right. And actually, because I was in there for quite some time, when I would see new busloads of people coming in, younger kids and stuff, I actually got to the point to where I would try to help school them because I knew what it was like coming off that bus the first day. You know what I mean? So I would kind of walk up to them and say, "Hey, it's not like you think it's gonna be," type deal. You know, try to help somebody out because I know I ain't gonna lie. I'd be sitting here. I'd be a liar if I didn't say I wasn't horrified the first day walking in there. I was terrified. You know.
I could imagine anybody feeling exactly that same way walking, and especially after watching so many movies that portray, what it's
Right.
like walking into there.
Right.
So, and then all the thoughts start going through your head, and when you're thinking like, "Oh man, who's gonna be my cellmate? Who am I bunking with?"
Yeah, it's got a crazy beat risk that you mentioned a cellmate because the very first guy that I celled up with, uh, I come in there and I'm thinking I got a long time, and then he gets to talking to me and he's like, "Yeah, I'm on my 39th year." I'm like, "What?
You
Are
got a
you kidding
lifer,
me?"
man.
Yeah, man.
And I've heard many stories about them are the dudes you got to watch out for, the lifers,
Yeah,
because they don't care.
they don't
They don't give a
they don't have
damn.
yeah, they have nothing to lose. Basically, I mean, that's their home, so they're gonna consider it as such. You know, and you're right, they don't care. I mean, the worst that can happen is, what are you gonna give me? Life on top of life,
Yeah.
So they don't hesitate to go ahead and put a hurting on somebody.
And that's what I've heard is like that's the last person you want to get in a fight with because they're gonna go all out. A lot of other people they'd be like, nah, nah, that's cool. I don't want to fight you because they don't want to put more time on themselves. They want to
Right,
get in, get out.
right. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right there. I mean, you don't want to get into it with one of them, that's for sure.
That they don't give a damn.
No, they definitely don't.
And how long were you in there for?
Oh, I got incarcerated in 2006, and I actually got out in 2009. Now, as soon as I got out in 2009, I was stupid, caught another charge, and went back for another 4 years. So I was in there for 7 years total.
How would you do the second time?
Felonious assault.
Oh
So
man.
I mean, it's not,
Now would you say that had a
mm,
lot to do with just because you were in there and being in the
I
system for that period of time, you weren't able to think correctly. You got used to a
right,
certain way of living.
right, right. When I came home, it's weird, but like nothing seemed the same outside. I like you said, I was still in that mindset, because it's not nothing to be laying down, when you're incarcerated and all of a sudden just hear two people shoe squeaking going at it on the back wall, fighting. There's nothing. That's like a normal day for being in there. So when I came home, I still kind of carried myself like that for quite some time, and I used to have people try to joke with me like, "You're not in there no more," but it's hard to break yourself out of that cycle.
Especially after you had what the first was 3 years. You did a 3 year
Yeah.
sentence.
And then went right back for 4. So stupidity, man, stupidity. I wasn't. Uh, I don't think. I mean, yeah, I was ready to come out mentally, but like in all reality, because I went right back the way I did, I don't think I was ready. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I was ready, but I wasn't ready. I was still acting a fool, and I shouldn't have been, and that's why I got sent back again. So,
Well, because you got comfortable being in there. You were in there.
right,
A lot of people wouldn't realize that, but to me, I see it like you would just adjust to that way of living, just being in there for
right.
3 years. And then, like, how many fights did you get in while you were in?
Whew. uh, Man, a lot, a lot. I can't even give an exact number. I mean, there was many of them though, many fights.
And it was, it was just, was
No,
it pretty much, what was the fights about?
well, I mean, basically, it could be something as small as, say, you're standing on the commissary line, and somebody like tries to cut up in front of you because it happens. It happens all the time. And obviously, when that person gets in front of you, you got to stand up. Otherwise, everybody's gonna start doing it. You know what I mean? So you kind of got to be like, you got to say something, and then when you say something to that person, it's like they get offended and they can't look weak. So now you got two people who can't look weak, and that's never gonna be a good outcome. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like, all right, we're not gonna look weak. So it comes down to getting into a fight.
Was
Yeah,
like, go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah. Go ahead with your question.
I was gonna say, like, it's pretty much every day, like, was a test, pretty much. Like, you were tested
Yeah,
every
it's
day.
every single day is a test in there. There's never a day to where you're not gonna get tested. Not. And I mean, it's just you kind of got to take it as like, what's gonna be my test today? You don't know until it happens. And
I'm just trying to, well, I'm just getting people a better understanding that way because
right,
they understand it better. That way, when you got out of prison after 3 years, it makes more sense because you were still in that mental state where you were in that
right,
defense mode. Think about this every day. Watch your listener. Listen. Every day, imagine having that mental ability in your head where you're constantly going to have somebody come up to you and test you for everything. And then
yeah,
once you got out, you were stuck like that. You're still in that way. You're still thinking like, okay,
right.
somebody comes up to you, you're still in that defense mode because
Mm,
3 years, man, 3 straight years running with it.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's a lifestyle I wish I didn't have to go through, but like I said again, I don't regret going through it because, it helped me become a better person. It helped me uh, get a better grip of the reality on life, you know what I mean? And actually appreciate life instead of not appreciate it like I was living in the past, you know? So, you know, it, it I feel that it definitely helped me become a much better person today.
Now, for the people that are like who would you have to avoid while you was in there? Who did you not want to come across?
Uh, well, I mean, like they tell you when you come in, you got your one set of people because it's kind of weird. You got your one set of people that are trying to tell you don't associate yourself with anybody who associates with the COs and stuff like that because they're labeled. a stitch. So if you try to associate with that type of person, they're going to label you as such, and you're probably going to be fighting every single day if you're labeled like that. And then you got, the other set of people trying to say, stay away from the gang life, blah, 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 which, uh, with me, I was young, I was alone, I didn't know nobody. So naturally, the first thing for me was to turn to the gang life. I wanted to feel like I could have some sort of protection while I was in there, so that's where I turned to.
And how did that work out for you?
Ooh, I mean, that's where a majority of my fights came from, being part of that, and as far as like inside the prison system, they got a stack of file on me, because of all the gang tattoos and gang activity and all that stuff. So, anytime, not that I'm going back because I'm done, but if I was to ever be incarcerated again, they already got that file on me. So it's not a good label to have, you know, especially if you're just trying to go do your time and come back home. It's not where you want to be. But, like I said, being worried about, being on my own, I basically wanted to have a sense of having somebody in there with me. You know what I mean?
For protection,
So
to protect you a little bit? Well, you
yeah,
need somebody to have your bag at least.
yeah, because they're, now that part of the, prison aspect, that is true. Gangs, they're crazy in there. There's a lot of gangs. Every gang you could think of is in there.
And then, okay, this one, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this one, but being that
What's up?
you were the baby face going into the prison, how many people tried to make you their girlfriend?
Whew. More than I can count, my friend. More than I can count. Uh, it actually stopped actually because you always got them people trying. You know what I mean? But there was I'll tell you the story. I was walking into my cell block one day after being outside, and the way the cells are set up, as I was walking by, it was actually a friend of mine that tried. Not after the fact, but still. As I walked by his cell, I just felt somebody grab me from behind, and he tried to rip me in his cell. Well, when he did that, you know, it wasn't a good outcome for him because everybody that was on my side, we were just talking about a minute ago, just ran up on him and just started stomping the crap out of him because he made it look bad because he was Hispanic for one, so it made our race look bad that he would be trying that. You know what I mean? So when he did do that, of course he didn't get me in the cell, but he did try. I'm gonna tell you, he tried. He definitely was pulling me to try to get me in there with him. And thank God, man, for the friends that I did have there because they jumped up and they ended up life flighting him out of there.
Wow.
I didn't see him after that. I don't know whatever happened. If they put him in another prison because of that, I don't know what happened. I couldn't tell you.
Right. And I imagine more than
But yeah,
likely because of that reason.
yeah, because of everything that transpired. But like I said, I've seen some horror stories in there too. Because the one block that I was in, it was kind of like being in a big pole barn and there was like three different streets they called them with nothing but beds. You know what I mean? So there's 100 and something people on one side, and there's two sides to that cell block. So you figure you got over 200 people in a block. And I remember that this was one of my first experiences too. I was sitting there laying in my bed watching TV, and I heard the commotion going on. I guess it's gonna sound funny to you, but it's real deal. I guess some guy ripped this guy off of a 25-cent soup, a ramen noodle soup. And when the dude went to ask for it back, he told him, basically like, no, I'm not giving it back to you. So that dude took offense to that and went and grabbed the post off of his bed and caved his head in
Wow.
bad.
And did you were
Like,
you did
just
you
seeing
witness
that
it?
was
You seen it?
crazy.
You seen it? Where,
Oh, I witnessed it. I seen it firsthand, man. It was now that was like sitting there was seeing that was like watching a movie for real because I couldn't believe it. Like I was just like stuck, just watching this whole thing take place, and it's crazy because a lot of people laugh about it because they're like over a soup. Come on, but what nobody understands is anything in there, any kind of money is like valuable, like out, like it would be out here. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's the whole reason
So
I didn't laugh about it because I know how serious everything is in there. Just even the smallest thing that you could think of could be life
right,
threatening to you in the end.
right,
And like
and
even
with
that, like even if you were to, like you said, it all comes down to you're tested each and every day. If you would have let that slide, everybody would have been on him like that.
right, right, and of course, to go back to that, it was a lifer. So when he disrespected him and told him like, "Hey, I'm not giving you what I borrowed back," well, that wasn't a good thing on his part.
Oh,
And like I said,
you said he was
yeah,
a
he went back.
lifer.
Yeah. So like just watching it was out of this world. It was something I don't wish to see again, but it was definitely crazy. It was
Did it haunt
it
you
was
at all? Was it like did it bother
oh
you?
yeah, yeah. And being out of prison now, I could talk about it. I actually did develop PTSD from being incarcerated. There are times and have been times when I've woke up with nightmares in the middle of the night and just jump out of bed and like be ready to fight. But then I come to the realization, like, hold up, I'm not there, you know. But yeah, I've had many nights like that.
And how do you usually like you settle yourself? How do you calm yourself down? Does
Basically, I just, I'll try to put on some easy to listen to music, nothing too violent or anything, and basically just if it's not too late, I'll try to call somebody, that I could talk to, like my mom or, one of my brothers or, a family member, and just try to talk to them, not even, let them know what happened, just kind of being on the phone with them, like, hey, what's up? What's going on? How you doing? It just helps.
just to relax your
So,
mind? Yeah.
yeah, just to
To ease
kind of
yourself
snap
out.
myself completely out of it. But yeah, I did develop PTSD, being in there because up as far as I can remember, I didn't have PTSD before I became incarcerated. So, you know, it definitely took its toll on me, that's for sure.
Then once you were finally out of the finally free, how was it just well, I should say your second time, once you got out the second time. Did you have a
Sure.
different mindset going out this time? You were like, okay, I'm gonna
Oh,
make this work.
well, without a doubt, like you just said, it was already set in my mind. Like, look, I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna make it happen, and I did. Shortly after I got out, uh, I went and got my license back. Uh, started working. Got my own car, and actually, that's where I met Caitlin. I've been with her for almost 6 years now. As soon as I met her, she kind of helped change my life around. And then eventually, 3 years after being with her, come to find out, hey, you're going to be a daddy. So it's, now I'm a dad. So it's like, now I got a whole different, like, you know, outlook too. Like, I'm going to be here for my child. I'm not going to get taken away from her to where she doesn't have me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I don't want her to have to experience that because no child should have to go through that without their parents. You know what I mean?
Amen. Amen to that.
I
Oh,
think all children should have both parents, even if they're not together. They should still have and know, like, hey, I got my mommy, I got my daddy type deal.
they're still
So,
in the picture altogether. Yeah.
right.
It's-
And, like I said, I'll keep referencing my kid, man. I mean, she's definitely my light, and uh, she definitely, if I ever even remotely think of doing something stupid, she is the first thing I think of, and automatically it takes that away.
You got that.
So,
She's in the front of your head. The
yeah,
front.
for sure.
She's there.
So, yeah, she kn- she's definitely been my little lifesaver, that's for sure. So,
How just kind of explain just how it was just readjusting into being free after you said
yeah,
7 years.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, it took a lot. I mean, when I came out, you know, I didn't even know what a smartphone was, because when I went in, pagers were still the thing, you know.
wow.
You get a page and hey, anybody got 35 cents? I gotta go make a call back. Type deal. Now you're coming out and you got all these iPhones and all this other crap, and it's like, what is that? Like, I don't know how to use that thing. So I mean, not only that, I mean, it seemed like everything kind of just because I'd be driving down the street with somebody and I'd be like, "When the heck did that get here?" You know,
Yeah, that
I wasn't there.
I'm just picturing it in my head too, just thinking about it. Like 7 years, man. You're away from it all. You're not seeing anything develop. You're not seeing anything happen. And then getting out into the
Hmm.
world and seeing all these new different technology, advancing like crazy. Especially even
Right,
now, just as it keeps going, it's like, wow, what's going on out here?
right, yeah, yeah. It's definitely but I mean, I'd say probably after a good couple good weeks that I was out, everything kind of started settling down a little bit. I didn't feel as uptight, I guess. Uh, and
Were
it
you hanging
just,
out? Were you hanging out with different people, or to help you ease your
honestly,
mind, or
honestly, when I came home, I didn't hang out with not a soul besides my family. That was it. I didn't hang out with nobody. Uh, and I think I was scared to in a way because I didn't want to start going down that path again,
yeah?
you know. So
Well, like you said, like
I was kind
eventually,
of a little nervous about even trying to hang out with anybody or go out and have a good time or whatever because I didn't know what it was, what to expect.
are you still there? So we were just talking about pretty much just adjusting to it all. You're just hanging out with family and
Yeah, basically,
just relaxing.
yeah, just tried to stay away from all the negativity, because Lord knows, I mean, there's plenty of that to go around.
Oh yeah, and that's what I always say. Like with everybody else, we live in a negative world, man. But it's best
Yeah,
to
big
just be
time.
positive towards everything. As hard as it
Yeah,
can be, man. But
yeah. I mean, every day, and I think of life out here too as life on the inside as well, because every day is a challenge out here. It's a lot harder out here because in there, at least you're gated. You know what I mean? You can't travel just anywhere. You're just stuck to that one spot. So I mean, I'm not saying it's not hard to get in trouble, but it's a lot harder to get in trouble into there than it is out here, if you get what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I've always called it a gated community in there, and that's what it is to me. I mean, out here, you don't have the limitations. You can go anywhere and do anything. And that comes with you could get in more trouble as well. So,
and then that's what a lot of people don't realize is like when you're free, you're on parole for what the first month or so. How's that long?
well, my first time I was on parole for almost 2.5 years. Um, and then I got off parole, and uh, but usually, all right, it all depends on like when you get sentenced, because not everybody's the same. Like, I had 3 years in prison, and then like I think it was like supposed to be 3 years of parole, but as long as you do what you got to do and keep your head on straight, then your parole officer will let you off parole early. They'll sign the papers and let you out. Now, my second time, uh, after 4 years, I did all 3 years of parole afterwards. Like, they didn't let me off early.
So if anybody was wondering, you couldn't just up and go like you wanted to. You
No,
can't just
no,
jump out of the country and just take off.
yeah. I mean, you could, but you're gonna be on most wanted list. I'll tell you that.
Like that ain't happening, fellas.
Yeah, I don't recommend that because they will find you.
I believe
Um,
that.
no, but for example, like if I wanted to go even like to a different state, I had to get, special permission. You know what I mean? And if my parole officer said I could not go, then guess what? I wasn't going.
You ain't
You
going.
know, yeah, they make the law, man. So, you gotta request it, and if they tell you no, then no. That's it.
So what was your goals? What you were set out there? What you wanted to accomplish as soon as you were free?
Uh, Basically, I just wanted to stay on the straight and narrow. Uh, I wanted, of course, to eventually talk with everybody, about the whole why I went and get people to understand that I wasn't the monster that everybody thought I was. You know what I mean? Because that hurts, bud. I mean, it really does when you know for a fact in your heart that you're not that person, and they don't know. You know what I mean?
And then
I
at the
mean,
time, like you were saying, you were stepping in for her. You were stepping in for the
right,
girl, so she didn't get
right.
into trouble. And that's what.
And
Go ahead.
the whole funny part about that was it's not funny, but like it wasn't even a week that I was gone, man. Uh she took my Xbox, she took all my clothes, she sold everything, man, and just up and left me after I did that for her.
So anybody
So it
that's
was like
wondering,
it was like a kick in the face.
yeah. So anybody that's wondering if you want to take the fall for somebody else, think twice.
Eh, do not take the fall. Never, because if I could take it back to them, I would have never been incarcerated. At least not that time.
Yeah, and it played a big role in your life, man. It took 7 years from you.
Right. It definitely did, man.
How
Like I said, I'm thankful to be home now. I'm thankful to have been home for as long as I have. And honestly, all I do now is take care of my daughter and work and just do all the right things that I can possible. And it's been working this for my sorry about that. It's been
tongue
working
twister?
this long, so I'm gonna continue to go with it. You know what I mean? Like what everything that I'm doing now is definitely been a good outcome. So I don't think I'm gonna change anything up. That's for sure.
Yeah. How was the dating life? Adjusting to that? Did you have like a wall built up when you first got out? Or were you
Yeah,
able
big
ready
big
just to
time. And yeah, I definitely had a wall build up, man. And like, I mean, I guess to a sense, I still kind of do. I mean, you'll never fully, get rid of that, especially if you've been down for any kind of time. I mean, you can get rid of it kind of, but it'll never fully go away. You know what I mean? Like, you're always gonna have that I lived it type deal in your mind, and you know, there are some things that I still kind of live like I'm in there, because with the whole name calling, like I've noticed one thing when I did come home, excuse me, about this younger generation, and how they talk to each other, and like call each other out their name, and one word that I hear all the time is they call each other, excuse me for saying it, but they call each other bitches. And there, if you say that to somebody, you better be ready to fight. So when I sit and hear these younger kids say that to each other out here, I'm looking at them like, are you serious? Like, I don't know, it just throws me off, I'm not used to how they talk to each other now. And it just amazes me to hear the way some of the stuff they say to each other.
As
So,
as someone says that, do you like clench your fist?
yes, I do. Big time.
You like
Big time.
ready? You're like, oh, let's
Oh,
take this
yeah,
out.
I'm ready. Yeah, without a doubt, I'm ready. And I've even told numerous people like that I've been around since I've been home, like, don't never call me that because if you do, I can't promise that I'm not swinging at you.
Yeah,
It's just that's my first reaction. You know, and I'm not saying that to try to sound like a tough guy or nothing because I'll never act like that. But that's just my instinct, man. If I hear that word, that's the first thing I think. Like, all right, well, now we got to fight. You know.
and it's just more because it's in your instinct. Because 7 years, man, it's locked in there now. So
Hmm.
when like certain things pop up, like you said, it triggers it, and then you find yourself like, oh, I can't. I came close, but I can't.
Right, right. You definitely. I've been there a couple times already, but like I said, uh, I snapped myself out of it, and again, my daughter helps me with that a lot more than what she knows. um, you know, I just gotta try to like really discipline myself, which I like. I gotta be happy. I'm happy because I do a good job now. I'm not like I used to be to where I would just do something stupid without thinking about it. I actually sit and think now. And
Now,
that's basically what it comes down to.
now this is what I was gonna ask. Being that you got in trouble for what you did your first term,
Right.
now has anybody ever used that against you with your child now? Try to throw that in your
Uh,
face at all?
Now, I mean, to my face, I no, but I have heard that there are rumors. Like there was a couple family members that had was trying to talk down about me, I guess, saying that I didn't deserve a child or blah blah blah. It did hurt, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? I mean, if you don't know the whole story, then don't judge me. You know,
And that's what
if any,
this is what I hope that people get out of this podcast, man, is instead of listening to the rumors or listen to the lies that people say
right,
about people's stories, get to know that person and actually find
exactly,
out for yourself, man.
right, because anybody who truly, truly knows me knows that that's not who I am. You know what I mean? They know that I'm a decent guy. I'm not hard to get along with. Uh, I'm actually fairly easy to get along with. I know that my looks are deceiving because I'm covered in tattoos and piercings, and a lot of people judge me because of that. They're like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's a juvenile delinquent or whatever." But really, it's not like that. It's just the way I like to look. I like my tattoos and I like my piercings, so I express myself that way. But if people would actually get to know me instead of like just looking at me and judging a book by its cover, they would know like, oh, he's an actual pretty decent guy, you know?
He's an awesome dude, man. He always has been.
Yeah. Always, I'll give somebody the shirt off my back. That's just who I am. I don't like to see anybody struggle. But nobody really there's a lot of people in this world, especially more today, that they don't give you that opportunity to show that you're a decent person. They automatically just judge you by the way you look. And I've seen some people that look like myself or maybe a little bit more outrageous that are some of the nicest people you'll ever know, you know?
From my own experience, I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you there.
Just because somebody's all tatted out or whatever, if I can get anything across, that doesn't mean that they're a bad person, you know? It just, that's how, everybody, I feel everybody should be entitled or should be allowed to express themselves however they want. Whether it be tattoos, piercings, whatever, different hair colors, whatever, it doesn't matter. Be who you are, and be happy with that.
And really, it's a good thing to talk about. Is you're sure you hear it all the time. Everybody
Right,
says just be yourself, but truthfully, once you do start being yourself, that's when things starts going your way. You start doing
right,
what you want to do. You start just living your own life, and not having somebody else
exactly,
live it for you.
right.
That's when life takes off
Yeah.
for you, man.
And it kind of has, man. Ever since, like like you just said, be yourself, and ever since I've started being who I was meant to be, I've been good. I couldn't appreciate life any more than what I do already right now. I love it. I love every day. So
You know,
every day's a blessing,
and the
I
best
don't
part
take
about it,
nothing
man.
back.
The best part about it is it's only just the beginning.
Yeah,
It's
for
only just
sure.
the beginning. Just think about, did you see yourself finding love when you got out and then having a
Never.
child
Nope.
and then for it just to play out like that? It's just, isn't that incredible?
It's amazing, man. But yeah, I never in my life would have been like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a dad. Never. Not one time thought about that. And now I am, and it's like the greatest feeling in the world, man. Like being a dad, there's no other feeling like it.
Just
It's the
waking,
greatest.
yeah, just waking up and just knowing that you have a little girl in the other room, waking up
Right.
to waking up to the mother next to you.
It's definitely a blessing, buddy. Definitely.
Well, let's jump into this love story a little bit. How did you guys meet and talk about your first date and just how it all took off?
Well, I started working at Kalahari as a houseman, and she was already employed there, and she was a housekeeper, and I just, like I said, I happened to see her, and I'm just like, holy smokes, yeah, right away, instantly, love at first sight, and I didn't think she felt that way about me, and we ended up talking a couple times and what have you, and we actually exchanged phone number as friends. That was it, just friends. Because at the time when I first met her, she actually was in a relationship. So uh, that's kind of how it led up to where with me and her, because the relationship she was in was not a good one. Like he was stealing her bank card, taking her money, blah blah blah, cheating on her, and basically he pushed her into my arms because once she realized all how bad he was treating her, she kind of just broke it off with him, and then me and her kind of hung out one night. It was, I could tell you the night actually. It was April 9th of 2016. That was first night we met, like, and actually spent some time together. And that was the day we started dating, and been together ever since.
What was the first date?
It was April 9th.
No, what did you guys do on the
And
first date? How
oh,
did you
what do
guys
we do?
hang out?
We ended up going to a friend of mine's house and kind of just like watching movies, and had some pizza and stuff like that. Just typical hanging out. And wasn't nothing real fancy or anything like that. And we were actually hanging out in the garage, and me and Caitlin, I should say, we were hanging out in the garage, sitting on the couch that they had set up out there. And I kind of looked over at her at that moment and was like, look, I'm not looking for no one night stands. I'm looking for something that's true and something that is going to be worthwhile. And as soon as I said that, she was like, I'll be your girl. And that was it. It's kind of crazy, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
And
I can
then,
even tell you, I can even tell you everything we were wearing. That's how crazy it is.
well, it's a moment captured in time. It's forever gonna be locked in there.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt.
Now, can you kind of describe what it was like? 'Cause like you said, you had a wall build up. Now,
Yeah, I did.
it still is, but How was it just adjusting to dating and trying to finally let her in? And
I mean, it was rough. Like there was, there's been some rough times for sure. With as far as my trust issues as well, because not trusting people. Uh, but it's like I said, it's something I had to work on, man. Uh, and I ain't gonna say it happened overnight because it definitely didn't. Uh, it probably took almost like a good year before I actually was able to completely let my walls down with her and actually be happy, I guess. And I mean, not saying we weren't happy. I'm just saying there was a lot. There were some holdbacks because of me being who I was.
yeah, and at the
But
same well, at the same time, I'm thinking like what you mentioned with her, she was in a relationship where I imagine her wall was probably built super
oh
high.
yeah, she had a major wall up, like because of what dude did to her. Like, I mean, she didn't trust either, and she didn't know what to expect. So, like, it might have been fate that brought us together because we were both kind of going through the same thing, just a little bit different on her side to my side. You know what I mean?
Now, was it
So,
tough? Was it tough for you to like kind of tell her about your record at all? Did when did that come
not
into play?
not one bit. That was one of the first things I told her about. I wanted to be, excuse me. I wanted to be completely honest and upfront about everything because I was sitting there telling her that I wanted something real, not no one night stands or anything. So how would that be fair for me to not let her know the important things about me as well? So some of the first things that we actually sat and talked about, and we spent many a nights, hours talking, just laying there talking. And like I said, that was one of the first things I brought out on the table. Like, look, this is what happened. Just like I explained to you, this is how it came to be. I just want to be upfront with you in case that's something that you don't like, then we can just call it quits now. And she respected me, man, for being straight up. And
Well,
I truly, I used to not believe it, but I believe it now. Honesty is the best policy, man, because if you put it out there, no secrets, you get a lot more respect than trying to hide stuff.
yeah, because
And
really, I mean, it gets thrown in your face afterwards. If you hide something, it's gonna come
right,
back eventually and get tossed in your face.
yeah, it might be, a week, it might be a year, but it's gonna come back.
Yeah, there's no hiding a secret. It's
No, never.
eventually gonna come to the surface.
Exactly. And, you know, she knew, to go back to that, she knew that I was incarcerated. It's obvious. I mean, like I said, I'm covered in tattoos. So, and these kind of tattoos you don't get from the streets. So, a lot of people know as soon as they see me, like, oh, yeah, you've been to prison. That's one of the first things a lot of people say to me is like, you've been to prison, haven't you? I'm like, yeah, but
Was she just more
not that
attracted to the bad boy?
I, maybe in a way. I mean, she was to the bad boy look, I guess. Uh, maybe. Yeah, I never did ask her about that. I never did ask like what attracted you to me. But now you got my curiosity going to where I probably will ask her. Like, what attracted you to me? Because I really would like to know. You know,
Seeing this guy all
it's
tatted up, this houseman all tatted up. They
right.
don't let you don't. Did you have your piercings in too, or no?
Well, I had my piercings, but every day that I went to work, I would take them out for the 8 hours or however long I was working because, being in a place like Kalahari, they don't want you to have this kind of stuff. So I would take all my piercings out, but at the end of the day, they were going right back in. I'll tell you that.
And now, um, probably a good question, but the girl that got you pretty much put in the jail, have you come across her at all since?
No, honestly, I haven't. And I don't care to be honest with you. I really don't. There's a lot of I guess hateful feelings I got towards that situation. Just because of everything that I had to go through. Uh, I guess I can't sit and say I hate her because hate's not the way I want to be. I don't want to hate nobody, but for all that I did, I felt I should have got a little bit more respect from her than what I did, and I didn't. Uh, I do know that she don't live anywhere in the state, and that's a good thing, you know.
And,
So, it's just it's better that way. Uh, like I said, I don't hate because hate's a very strong negative thing, and I don't want to live my life negative anymore. I want to be positive. So there's a lot of ill feelings, though. That's a better way to put it.
yeah. Oh well, I mean, I believe without a doubt anybody would feel the same way.
Right. Like I sat here and did this for you, but what did you really do back in return?
And
Type
like,
deal.
and that's the thing. It's like, how many times have you heard that story where you stood up for the girl, you went and did time for
Well,
her all of a sudden to say, ah, screw that guy, and then it was somebody
well, there
else
was
back then.
one of my good friends actually that became one of my good friends in prison. He did the same thing basically, except he got 9 years. Um, Basically, what had happened was I know he doesn't mind telling. Plus, I'm not putting his name out there, but he was sleeping one day, and his the mother of his child had put the child into the bathtub and left while he was sleeping, and the child ended up drowning and dying, and he ended up getting 9 years because he wouldn't let her go down for it.
She went
So
to work, or
not only did well, no, she just went out to find, sad to say, she went out to find some drugs. And she knew he was sleeping, and she still did it, thinking, oh, it'll be okay. And the child, like I said, he ended up losing his daughter and doing 9 years on top of that. So he got a double whammy.
I could only imagine just how he was feeling in that moment.
He
Just
was a
being in
very
there,
hateful person.
yeah, just pretty, yeah. I mean, being locked in for 9 years, and then on top of that, still, thinking about your daughter. You just had lost your daughter.
Yep. And in all reality, he had nothing at all to do with it. All he was doing was sleeping because he worked the night before and he was tired, so he was sleeping, of course. And he still got 9 years because of that.
Have you spoke to him since? Is he a free
Oh yeah.
man?
Yeah. He's actually got he became free probably like 2 years after I was home, and he actually found me. Wanted to thank me for all the times and all the talks and stuff that we had while we were incarcerated. I told him it's not a big deal, man. I consider him a friend. He's a good dude. I felt like he got dealt a crappy hand because of what happened.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Uh,
But
Next question, as we begin to wrap this thing up.
yeah,
How was you said because you didn't graduate
right.
and getting out of school, get out of prison. What was it like just trying to find work? Was it easy or was it hard?
Uh, it depends. I mean, the jobs that I really, really, truly wanted, I couldn't really do nothing with them, like because one, I didn't have a diploma, or two, I had a record. So when they seen a felony on your record, if it's not the diploma, it's the felony, and they'll be like, "Oh, we don't want you," type deal. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a challenge. I'm not gonna say it's impossible because it's not. Like, I found many jobs, even temp services that'll help you. Like, I know the first time coming home, it was a lot harder because back then, uh, they weren't as they call it, inmate friendly. Because the way they see it is, okay, if you've been incarcerated, you're a piece of crap type deal. So you don't deserve a second chance at life. And I don't think that's fair because how do they expect somebody to come out of rehabilitation, is what they call it, and if they can't get ahead in life, what makes them think that they're not going to be like, well, screw it, I'm better off in there? And that's what happens a lot.
I think yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I think that's what happens to a lot of people where they get out and they're trying to better
Right,
themselves and trying to renew their lives, but
right.
they're being constantly judged everywhere, and they're
Yep.
trying their best to find somewhere to make it work. But like you said, the world
And
is judging you and talking about you,
yeah,
and then you
they
just
don't
feel
want to give them a
safer.
chance.
You're just like, I'm just gonna go back.
Right. And that is so sad, man, because I see a lot of people that actually do that because after so long of trying something when they are free and they're not getting ahead, they're like, you know what? If I'm better off in there, that's where I'm going. And they say screw it and they go back. Sad, but that's the way it is.
But what I just heard recently that they started doing now is they have programs in the prisons where they can actually help you develop your skills of whatever you're trying to chase after. That way, when you get
Yeah.
out, you're set.
Yeah, yeah, they got like small engine repairs, they got like computers in there. They actually have college in prison to where you go to college, to the university, everything. They got people, they have volunteers that come in and they actually teach college courses to the inmates.
Wow.
And it's just like being on the streets. You actually earn your degree. It's kind of cool. And they also got like barber college. If somebody wants to get out and do haircuts, they could do that. Yeah, they do offer some stuff. So,
And then like you said you got tattoos and stuff in prison. Now, was it
oh
kind
yeah, but
of having your tattoo guy? They, nobody really wants to talk about this, but it's tough for him to get his stuff in there and without nobody questioning him, right?
well, yeah, it's like this, man. Basically, how they do tattoo guns in there is they take their CD player and they'll break it and take the motor out of it, and that's got the motor for your gun. And then what they do is they'll take a piece of a pen and like a Bic pen, and they'll cut that in half, and that's your barrel to hold your needle. And then as far as your needle goes, they'll take excuse me, they'll take the guitar strings off one of the guitars in the prison because you could play in the band and stuff, and that's how they do the needle.
Wow.
So it's not that hard to make a tattoo gun in prison.
Yeah,
And you know, and that's one more thing, just real quick. I mean, that I do want to touch on too, because like it is so easy to get drugs and cell phones and just everything. It's so easy in there. And I want to speak on that. Like some of them COs are more crookeder than some of us convicts. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there probably shaking their heads right now, like, yeah, because it's true, man. How else is it going to get in there? You know?
without a doubt.
So, you know, I definitely wanted to speak about that too. And I should have a while ago, saying that, I seen a lot of COs in there, man, that were a lot crookeder than some of the stuff that we were doing. And, they're no different from us. They just hold a higher.
As we begin to wrap this up, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Uh, well, basically, I just want to reach out there for somebody who if, when you're incarcerated, losing somebody that you're extremely close to, because, uh, when I was incarcerated, my father actually passed away. So, that's extremely rough, for one, being away from your family already, but for two, losing them while you're in there and not being able to do nothing about it.
Just how were you feeling in that moment, knowing that you couldn't be there just to see your dad?
I mean, I was to the point of suicidal thoughts. They actually had to put me in a cell by myself. What they call it, a turtle suit. It's like a hospital gown, basically, so you don't hurt yourself. And I was just beside myself, and that's where some of my story picks up too, is because when I lost my father, I turned to doing pills and stuff, and trying to ease my pain, basically.
Fill that hole in your heart.
Yeah, fill the hole that I was, because I couldn't be there to say my proper goodbyes. And there's still days till this day still that I'll sit and kick myself in the butt for not being there, not being able to be there for my father and his time, in his last days. So, I mean, it's definitely something I wish nobody has to go through, because it's horrible.
What would your advice be to that person right now that's kind of dealing with the
Um,
same that's dealing with the same thing?
the best advice that I could give for something like that is, I mean, of course, naturally, losing that person is never going to be easy. It's not. But what helped me is to actually sit in that single cell by myself and think, like, would my dad really want me to be doing this kind of stuff? Or would he want me to, be happy and, not focus on the negative things? He would want me to focus on the positive things. So, I mean, everybody's different. Nobody's the same as I am, and I'm not the same as the next person. But, I mean, the last thing you absolutely want to do in a situation like that is lose complete control, because you might not come back from that. And, it's deep down, it's not worth it to go like over the edge because of that, of something like that. Because the way I had to look at it was, there's two things in this life that we're guaranteed, and that's life and death. Everything else is just irrelevant. I mean, and it took me a long time to actually sit and figure that out, you know. And I'm still not perfect at it. Like I said, there's many nights that, I'll be sitting, because I don't sleep a whole lot because of my insomnia and stuff like that. But there's many nights that I'll sit and I'll start tearing up, because, I'll put on some music thinking of my dad and everything, and uh just, try to think of all the good times and stuff, and, what I would be doing differently if he was still here, you know. So, yeah, it still takes its toll on me, that's for sure. And whoever tries to tell you that it's going to be, it's going to get easier, maybe, but it's never going to go away.
Well said. Well said. All right, as we begin to wrap this thing up, anything else you talk about that we haven't covered?
So I think he pretty much got me. I think he pretty much found out who Louis Ortiz was today, that's for sure.
That's the story, folks. That's his story.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Just want to say to everybody that's watching and listening right now, thank you. Thank you. And also, if you would like to come on and tell your story sometime, feel free to message me. But as we, say our goodbyes, if anybody is currently dealing with what Louis dealt with when he went into his first term, is they took they stepped in for the wrong person, and or they're getting out right now. They just realized that they made that mistake too. What would your
Right.
advice be to that person, Louis?
No matter how much you're trying to do the right thing and you want to help that person, please don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not. Because when you do it, I don't care if it's today, tomorrow, a year from now, you are going to absolutely regret it because deep down, when you take that fall for a person, and especially something that hard, they're never going to appreciate you for what you did. Never.
And another question that has kind of popped in my head is somebody that has the anger towards that person for what they did, for taking the fall for that person, and how they treated him afterwards, and kind of just what I'm saying. What would you say? What's your advice be for that? How would you say? Just move on, forgive them. What?
I would say forgive, but never forget. I mean, don't hold the grudge because grudges just take its tolls on you. But I mean, move forward with your life without a doubt and be happy, but don't never forget it either because that's knowledge you might need later.
Well said. Well said. All right, everybody. I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening once again. This is Chris, and you just heard the story of Louis. And hey, before I wrap up, I just almost forgot. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or contact you in any way to talk to you personally, how do they do that, Louis?
I mean, they could hit me up on Facebook or they can, I mean, I would say that's the best way or for right now, and if they do hit me up that way and if they're serious about actually wanting to communicate, I can give them my cell phone number at that time and we can talk more.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here, man. I'll see you next time. This